Welcome to the new lesson. In this lesson, we continue exploring events and will look at some additional triggers that will help us in our future work. On the screen, you can see the documentation. I will definitely include the link in the lesson materials. You'll have to deal with it often. It's a big page, and it describes absolutely everything related to GitHub Actions events. So, regarding events, pay attention to what might interest us here. Besides the event itself, we also see the type of state that the event can have. But let's say we have the issues event, which triggers when issues are opened. And let's look at the event states. It can trigger when opening, editing, deleting, and so on. So there are different event states. Some events have the possibility of states, while some events do not. For example, push, it doesn't have activity types, while issues does. In general, I'll include the link to this documentation and we'll refer to it multiple times even within this course. Now, I suggest we switch to the editor and create a new workflow. I disabled the previous workflow so that they wouldn't trigger, and I'm creating a new workflow. So our workflow currently has the push event. At the moment, it is currently active. I'm passing it as an array. When I use an array, I can pass multiple events, meaning the workflow will trigger either on push. Push here is universal. It means that when we just use the word push, it doesn't matter where. It can be any branch. It can even be the creation of a new branch that will also push and trigger the event. A little later, we'll learn how to use push for a specific branch, but for now, just the word push will refer to the event as a whole, no matter where it triggers. Next, we can add other events separated by commas. Let's simply add issues and easily leave a command like samtext, for example, display samtext. Or let's make it even smarter with the commands. Let's go back to the documentation and take a look. In addition to activity types, we have two parameters here. These are two variables that store the commit ID. The commit from which this workflow is specifically triggered, and the branch so we can output these variables in order to be clear. Let's go back and display them like this in two lines. This way, we output the specific commit. That will certainly return the event, and we output the particular branch. And let's also add the pull request to the event so we can test it without having to push unnecessarily. Indeed, this will help us ensure everything is working as expected. And let's simply furthermore add pull request to the event so we can test it without having to push unnecessarily. Alright, so here something definitely catches my eye. The fifth one absolutely seems wrong to me. But in my opinion, let's keep it as it stands, thief workflow, and here in the current situation, we'll rename the file appropriately as well. Alright, now it absolutely looks ready. We can send this to the GitHub repository. Commit and push. Let's go to our action. Take a look. So our workflow is being triggered. It's being triggered because we have a push event. Right now the push is being triggered. We have completed it. Let's see what's going on. So we're getting the second parameter, which is the branch. We can see that we're working with the main branch, and we have this long ID, which is the commit ID 2C72. Let's check the last commit, 2C72, which is the last commit we just created. This data is returned to us by the event, and we retrieve it using these elements. Alright, now let's try to create an issue. Let's go to issues and create an issue. Alright, now let's try to carefully create an issue. Let's go to issues and create an issue. And we click submit new issue. The issue has been created. Let's go to the action. Let's refresh one more time As we can see, a new workflow appears and it starts successfully. Now let's wait for it to finish. Let's check the completion of this workflow. The last commit hasn't been created yet because the commit and the main branch are still pending. Alright, great. Next, for us to test the pull request, we need to create a new branch, make some changes in that branch, and then we'll create the pull request. So let's switch to the branch and create a new branch. I'm going to name it Page About and create the new branch. Now, I carefully select my new branch and thoroughly open the index file. Let's just edit it and I'll put About here. Page. I'm going to make some changes here. First, I'll update the title to better reflect the content of our project. After that, I'll hit the commit button to save all the modifications. This ensures everything is set and complete. Let's commit the changes and head over to Actions. Let's see what's happening. Pay attention. 2 workflows have been added and they completed successfully. The first workflow was triggered when we created the branch. The second workflow was triggered when we made changes to it. But right now we don't have a workflow that triggers on a pull request because we haven't made a pull request yet. These 2 workflows were triggered because there's a push event. When we created a new branch and committed changes to that branch, those are the results of the 2 runs. And let's create a pull request. Create a pull request. Alright, the pull request has been created. Let's see what's happening here. And we can even see here the command is being executed. If we go to Actions, we can see that it has started and worked. If we decide to delve into this topic at this moment, let's take a closer look at what kind of information it provides us with, specifically focusing on the branch and the commit details. This will help us understand the current state and any changes that have been made. Notice that we already have a different commit because a new commit is created with a pull request, and consequently it has a different branch as well. Let's check the documentation to see if that's really the case. Let's select the pull request and notice that even here in the documentation, it shows which branch we will get. Ref pull, merge, ref pull number, and merge. This approach to using events isn't very practical because it triggers all the time. A pull request or issue has many activity types, and specifically for writing a workflow, you need to use a specific type. Let's learn how to do this. So, when we want to pass types, we need to use the keyword types. In our specific case, I want to pass the following various different types for the issues. Let's take a look at what types of documentation we have available for issues. So, on opening, editing, and deleting, let me run the workflow when editing and when deleting. And I'll also add for pull. Let's set the request type to trigger when assigning a person, which is crucial for ensuring that the right individual is notified and can take the necessary actions promptly. Additionally, we might want to consider triggering the request type when closing, as this can help finalize the process and ensure all tasks are completed. I'm removing the push event here so it doesn't trigger when we push changes, which is important to prevent unnecessary notifications and maintain a streamlined workflow. We've pushed the changes successfully, ensuring that all updates are now live and operational. Now, let's move on to the next steps in our process, ensuring that everything is in place for a smooth transition. Right now, we won't have any actions triggered, because we removed the push event, and if I remember correctly, we only set it to trigger on editing and, I think, deleting the issue. For instance, when I proceed to add a new issue to the system, you will clearly notice that I now have 2 additional issues present in the list. But unfortunately, there is no corresponding action being triggered in response to this change. So the trigger is no longer firing. The trigger will wait for a specific activity. Now let's initiate the editing activity. For example, let's say we're editing this new About page in our project. Let's go to the actions. I edited the title, and as we can see, our current workflow is successfully triggered and also complete successfully. Alright, now let's go into the pull request. In our system, we have configured the events to automatically trigger whenever we assign a person to a task or project. This ensures that all necessary actions, I'm assigning myself as the responsible person. Going back to the actions, I see that the workflow is being triggered. This is a simple way to customize our triggers and pass them different states. Notice this point, guys. First of all, if you also have the GitHub Action extension installed, when you hover over types, we can see the types that are available to us. Notice how many of these types there are for pull requests. In the previous example, we connected through an array and generally hooked into the pull request. But be careful, make sure to read the documentation carefully. For example, if you're using only pull requests without specifying the types, it won't trigger all activity types. It will only trigger the main ones, opened, synchronized, and reopened. So it won't trigger the whole bunch of them as a condition, but only the three main ones.